Hello, my name is Leanne Lamb, and I'm with Contemporary Asian Theater Scene, otherwise known as CATS. CATS is a multidisciplinary arts organization focused on Asian American theater, music, and film. In fact, our next production is going to be the ninth annual Silicon Valley Asian Pacific Film Festival, starting in October 20th through 29th. Today, we're focused on talking to Jeffrey Lowe, the director of San Jose's production of Bald Sisters. It's written by Vichet Chum, and the production runs through October 8th. A little bit about Jeffrey. Jeffrey is a Filipino American director and playwright based in the Bay Area. He won the Lee Weimer's Emerging Artist Award, and his directing credits go throughout the Bay Area and beyond. He directed The Language Archive and the Chinatown set Little Shop of Horrors for TheaterWorks Silicon Valley, The Great Leap and Viet Gone at Capitol Stage, and The Paper Dreams of Harry Chin and Hold These Truths at San Francisco Playhouse. I am going to be joined for this interview with Jeffrey with Alina Yin. Alina is a first-generation Cambodian American multidisciplinary artist, civic participation activist, and entrepreneur. They work at the intersection of art, technology, and lawmaking to create and explore new forms of civic participation. As an artist, Alina creates to honor the animate world they live in. Welcome, Alina.
Thank you, Leanne. Thank you for having me. Jeffrey, so lovely to be in this conversation with you.
Likewise.
I can start us off. And so we both saw the play this weekend. We're really excited for this conversation. But I wanted to kind of ask, in your own words, can you share what Vichet Chum's play, Bald Sister, is about to you?
Yeah, so I think that I would say my elevator pitch sort of the play is Bald Sisters is a play that surrounds two estranged sisters who have for various reasons in their life become disconnected as people and as family members, having to reunite and sort through the emotional and physical rummages of their life after the passing of their mother. And through this story, we get to explore both their um, heritage and their experiences as Cambodian American refugees, and also see how their lives have taken different turns and different explorations in their sort of their American experience, and it becomes a very multicultural story, given with one character being married to a white American Christian pastor, and another sort of adopted member of the family being a Syrian refugee himself, and sort of how that all mixes together. But I think at its core, it's about two sisters and them trying to sort through their lives, their history, their culture, and where they are today, and what that means for them and what that means for their relationship with their recently passed mother.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Why do you think it's important for our audiences to see this play? I mean, you brought up so many themes and so many different trigger areas, but can you talk about why it's important for them to see that right now?
Yeah, I think there's various layers to it. I think, in on one layer of it, I think that the Cambodian experience and the Cambodian American experience, and sort of even broader the Asian American experience, is one that it's always important to sort of uplift all of the specific identities and the specific experiences that create sort of our diaspora of experiences, and who we are as people. And I think that the Cambodian American experience is one that hasn't been as represented and as uplifted as other communities, and I think that it's really important that we get the chance through Vichet's language and Vichet's story to sort of uplift both a Cambodian American playwright and a Cambodian American story. I mean, Vichet says in his script that this piece is dedicated to all the women, especially the Cambodian American women in his life. Um, and So there's that layer of it, that it's very important to be able to get something that is so close to home and is from the community, getting to uplift their own stories and their own experiences. And then to other layers of it, I always say that I think that storytelling and in all of its forms, and theater in its various forms, is such a strong tool for sort of creating understanding within our world. And I say that to say that even folks that are outside of the Cambodian American experience, outside of the Asian American experience, will be able to connect in various ways and get to sort of latch on in so many ways. It's going to be a different experience than if you are closer to those communities or closer to those identities, but it's going to be one that's almost equally as beautiful, because you do get to create a level of understanding to a community outside of your own, and also at the same time you get to celebrate and understand how experiences are similar in a lot of ways. I've had folks talk to me after the show, talking about how, regardless of their background, this piece made them think about them and their relationship with their siblings, or them and their relationship with their parents, or them and their relationship to um, there's a real theme of sickness and cancer that's in this piece. And there's so many people where, our unfortunately within our company, there was most of our cast, I think it was almost all of our cast members, had a very, very close experience to a person or them themselves, an experience with cancer. And to us, in addition to this play honoring the women, the Cambodian American women in Vichet's life, or in the world in general, honoring the our siblings, honoring our parents, it was also honoring those who have experienced or who have unfortunately passed due to cancer. And so I think that there's just a lot of touch points and angles where this story does what storytelling does when it's at its best, which is we're able to celebrate what makes every person in every community unique, and also it's celebrating what makes us similar as people, and how we can connect as people and understand one another.
Definitely. We definitely, I think, both saw those themes and resonated with that as well. I'm curious to know about, I love seeing, the Bay Area theaters present these AAPI stories. Can you share about how this play came to be San Jose Stage's opening for their season?
Mm. Yeah, it came together kind of quickly, but it was a play that was certainly on many of our radars, certainly my personal radar, even before San Jose Stage got involved for quite some time. I am lucky to know a few of the actors who were in the original production of Bald Sisters at Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, and I was messaging them because as I started to hear about this script, I was like, wow, this seems like a really powerful, amazing piece of theater. This story is so um, seems like it's so full of possibility and so full of heart and soul. And so I was sort of from afar following it. And then once they opened the show and there was sort of like a pseudo frozen version of the script, I asked the artist if I would be if I can have the chance to read the script, which they let me read it. And I had talked to various theater companies about the possibility of potentially producing this play. San Jose Stage Company has the honor of being the second theater company in the country to get to produce this play. It was only done in Chicago and now here in San Jose. And so San Jose Stage Company had their eye on this play sort of separately from me, and also they have a really close sort of emotional tie to Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, where I think they both in theme and types of shows that they do. I think both theater companies sort of have a very similar a similar artistic vibe, if you will, for lack of a better way of saying it. And so when they had reached out to me asking if I was interested in doing Bald Sisters, they thought it would take some time for me to read the script and do all these things. But little did they know I'd read it and been pursuing this play for quite some time. Quite some time. I mean, the show is so new, but for a few months I had been sort of circling around the play, so I was immediately able to say that this was a piece that I think we should do, and a piece that I wanted to be a part of. I think what's so lovely is I'm born and raised in East San Jose, and so many of the people outside of my sort of Filipino heritage, I think most of the people that I surrounded myself with, and the other communities that raised me outside of my Filipino community would be like the Mexican American community and the Vietnamese American community. And in a lot of ways, I think that there is also this really rich Cambodian American community in San Jose, and as I was able to witness by doing a few shows surrounding the Vietnamese community and seeing the power and seeing I think the healing and the warmth that came from being able to represent the Vietnamese community on stage, I was really excited to be able to do that for the Cambodian American community as well.
That's amazing. I love the story that everybody had this, on mind and it just converged together, very like stars aligned kind of vibe. And I did see Viet Gone and also born and raised in East Side San Jose and
Mm-hmm.
had the same experiences with like the Mexican community and like the Latinx community and the Vietnamese community. I remember it wasn't until I was like 6 or something, I thought I was Mexican. Like, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't have that conversation because I was like taking folklorical dance classes. I had a little bit of Spanish. I lived like on Story and King. So I was like right in the middle. And it wasn't until later, it's like, no, you're actually Cambodian. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's so interesting. Jeffrey, I've been a subscriber for San Jose Stage for a lot of years, 10 to 15 years, and I am just so appreciated that they bring in theater that talks to me and theater that
Mm.
I learn from, that I can reflect from. So, and I'm really thrilled that they brought you back in. I think you did the Great Leap with them earlier, as well as another one. So, as a director, so this is really wonderful. What were you able to bring to this to Bald Sisters that you always wanted to while directing this?
Yeah, I think one of the one of the greatest compliments I got. I have one of my closest friends that I grew up with named Irene Van, is this Vietnamese American artist and activist and therapist, and they came up to me after the show and they're like, God, I loved that. That was so Southeast Asian, and sort of listed off all these little tidbits of things and these little things of specificity down to like the brand of fish sauce, which was actually the literal fish sauce from my home. um it was like one of those things where it didn't make sense to have like a brand new bottle of fish sauce, and like so I'm like I'll take this new one that we bought and I'll just bring you my half used one. To the karaoke, to sort of the placement of how the Cambodian painting that was sort of tucked into the parts of the house that were being packed away, and to the just all these various things. And I think that for me, what I always try to bring to every production that I work on, but to be perfectly honest, especially productions surrounding the Asian American community, is sort of the specificity of things and trying to find what I'll call like the deep cuts of things. So there's certain things where like the play probably would have been 99.9% the same if we didn't have a particular brand of fish sauce on stage. But if you have a Cambodian American, a Vietnamese American, a Southeast Asian person, they'll identify that and they'll feel more seen, right? And I think for me, I always think about at American Conservatory Theater in San Francisco about 10 or so years ago, they did a show called Monstrous and Remember the I Hotel, which was the first time I saw on a stage that big a Filipino American story. And I wasn't involved in the production. I just watched the show. And then they had the set was revealed for the second act, and there was just like a box of Skyflakes, which is like this like incredibly specific brand of crackers that like old Filipino women love. And I remember just gasping in that theater because and it had nothing to do with the story. There was no line about it. It was just there. And I just remember that experience of like, oh my gosh, they got it. They got a part of my childhood. They got a part of my home, and they put it on that stage. And my hope is that for so many communities that haven't had that opportunity, and for me, that was 10 years ago. I waited 20 some odd years before I had an experience where I felt like I was seen on stage. I hope to help sort of manifest that for as many people as I can. um, because I think that it's really easy to feel like you're the only one, or feel othered, or feel alone. And I think that for me, um, finding a way to speak, be it through the text, through the story, through the delivery of lines, through the props, the set, the costumes, like really feel like we are telling people of communities that have been othered for a long time, like, hey, I see you, and that's you. I don't want to spoil the end of the play for anyone, but I will say that one thing that isn't necessarily in the script that I was really proud of is that we did get to have at the ending, which both of you know about. We did get to have a character in traditional Cambodian formal wear, and we were able to source that from a Cambodian tailor of sort, or a outfit maker. And that was a moment that I was really really excited to be able to have on stage, and really really proud of, because it was sort of that balance of, this is a Cambodian American play, so they were dressing very American, of course, very Western, but finding a moment for us to sort of prop up the beauty of traditional Cambodian clothing and culture was a special thing for us as well.
Yes, I definitely loved the outfit. It's a very beautiful dress. And, for me, this play had many themes that, I feel like, as you were saying earlier too, it brings audience members on this like cross-cultural journey through experiences that, regardless of culture, many have likely experienced, like, cancer, death, grief, intergenerational trauma, and, down to the mundane family dynamics of siblings. I
Mm-hmm.
love the explosive kind of dialogue, because as I was watching it, I was kind of imagining or remembering conversations, but in Khmer, of, I was like, that's it, that's the tone, and that is like usually the emotions involved. Cambodians, not many people I think know, we are very emotionally expressive. We're like we can be very loud, and so I really appreciate like the specificity down to the fish sauce, and just like the little kitchen trinkets, and even the boxes, and like the way the stage was designed was very, like, it reminded me of my home.
Mm-hmm.
And I think especially too with this play, like since the pandemic, which was a year of tremendous grief and loss, and stories on that topic have really been, I think, top of mind for everyone. And also being a part of the Silicon Valley Asian Pacific Film Festival, we've seen a lot of films that touch on the topic of grief. So it seems very, very top of mind for a lot of people. And I love how, this play portrays how different people, especially with the more present, like the Syrian aspect. And I just thought that was a really lovely tie-in. And it does remove the otherness, because it's a story that is extremely relatable. And I'm curious to know, like, what from your like Filipino cultural heritage, that you found really related with the play.
Mm. I think it's so interesting because what I love about creating theater and getting the opportunity to, as in depth and as respectfully as possible, sort of get to collaborate with different communities and different cultures, is I love finding the connection points, right? So early in the pandemic, I got to work on a piece about the grape strike, the Delano grape strike, and I loved just thinking about how Mexican culture and Filipino culture were, like, for so many reasons, like almost the same. Like there's just so much about our communities that are just spot on. Like, yeah, this is just, we're just like looking at each other through a different lens. And what I've loved is finding out how I already knew that I had such a connection to Mexican culture because of those similarities. But then when I go through and work on various shows, be it through the Vietnamese community, the Chinese community, the Japanese community, I'm like, oh, look at all these similarities that we all have. And so for me, the thing that really spoke to me was this relationship that these sisters had with their mother, and sort of how their mother sort of connected trauma to lessons, to life lessons in a lot of ways. I remember thinking like one of the lines that I'm still to this day so moved by is talking about how the Khmer Rouge took over on Khmer New Year. And so the Cambodian community learned how to grieve and celebrate in the same breath.
Mm.
And I think that that's so true of so many communities in so many places that have been gone through so much trauma. And for me, I mean, the places that I'm most familiar with are these various Southeast Asian countries like the Philippines that have gone through so much and are just trying to find their way in such a complicated and oftentimes unhealthy way. You know, like I feel like there's certain countries, like this is so weird to say, but like in a lot of ways, I feel like the Philippines is like a country that is in desperate need of therapy, like as a country, and like both the individuals, but like if there was like therapy for countries, like the Philippines like really needs it. And in a lot of ways, I feel like these communities that have gone through things like the Khmer Rouge, like the Vietnam War, like all of the like oh like look at this thing that we all share. The country needs therapy. The country needs to be able to find a way to healthfully reflect upon this terrible stuff that's happened to us. And my hope is that through theater, these are like small ways that we're able to do that. But that was really a connection that I was able to make, is that sort of the hard ways that siblings, and again, I don't know if, I'm sure that this is true of a lot of cultures, but I know this is true of Filipino culture, but this thing where like siblings who for very good and hard reasons don't really feel connected to each other, but still hear from their parents. At the end of the day, your siblings are all you're gonna have, and you need to figure that out. Like that resonates in such a real way to me and to so many other Filipino Americans I know. And again, it's another touch point where I'm like, oh, look at that connection, look at how we're similar, and look at how I feel seen as a Filipino American through these Cambodian American stories and the Cambodian Americans feeling seen. So that's sort of a, I don't know if I answered the question, but that was sort
Yeah.
of what it did for me there.
Yeah, no, and you know what? Your favorite line was my favorite line. I loved,
Mm,
I was like crying and I was like, oh, get it together. It was definitely, a very resonant line of, especially just the refugee experience across many, many cultures is learning to celebrate while you're still grieving.
yeah.
And I thought that was very beautifully presented in the play. And we all need therapy. Like the other theme was, Safe was saying like, oh, my parents don't talk about it. My parents don't talk about it. No one really talks about it. And I'm pretty sure it's also, within the Jewish community, like, they don't talk about it. So there is that constant thread. And what I've seen with like the millennial kind of generation is like, let's talk about it. Let's like
Mhm.
drop in these terms and like therapy and like how can we heal? Yeah,
Yeah.
that was really beautiful.
Wow. Well, Jeffrey, thank you so much for your time today. I wanted to ask you one final question of what key experience or message are you hoping that audiences will take away from this production by Vichet?
Mm. I think for me, and people can take this from various directions. I didn't prep this. This is really what's coming to mind in this very moment. But I do think that this play hopefully can remind us that it's never too late to heal, and never too late to attempt to heal, be it with relationships with people, be it through trauma that one has gone through in life or trauma that previous generations have gone through, or whatever challenges you may be going through personally. I think that this play is sort of a demonstration that in all these different angles for the play, it's never too late for one to try and heal.
Beautiful. Yeah, I
Thank you.
definitely agree with that.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Really appreciate this time. Thank you so much, Alina. Alina, you have a podcast on Spotify called The Other Perspectives, and I think people would be interested in hearing about that. But in the meantime, please, folks, this is a really fabulous play played by San Jose Stage, directed by Jeffrey Lowe, written by Vichet Chum, and it's running through October 8th. So get your tickets now. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. Have a
Thank you.
Thank you so much.